Okay.
All right.
I say greetings early morning here in Kharkiv, Ukraine.
Yeah, you woke up. It's like
Kharkiv.
3 in the morning, right?
The first round, and now it's 4 in the morning, so a little
4 in the
adjustment
morning.
on the schedule. Let me here.
Okay.
Well, thank you for joining us tonight. Do you want to give us an introduction of yourself and what you're doing over there?
Yeah, I should have brought some props. They're all out in the vehicle and with the units. So I'm Troy Smothers, resident of Pleasant Grove, Utah, and the 2004 or 2005 timeframe, I served in the United States Marine Corps, and our sister country is at that time was Ukraine. So during our summer annual training, I would come over as a younger Marine and we would train the Ukrainians in infantry tactics so that they could defend themselves against this very scenario. Our adversary at that time and all of our efforts was always Russia. And now I'm back as a older Marine and just keeping those, helping these Ukrainians maintain their freedom.
Are you an active Marine or are you on a reserve? Are you still in the service?
Well, no, I'm not in the service, so this is on my own time and own dime there. But it's when you say Marine, there's just a terminology we use in the Marine Corps. Once a Marine, always a Marine.
Always a Marine.
So yeah, we just it's more of a breed than it is a branch. So it's just a terminology.
Do they pay you to come over and help?
No, I'm fortunate. I'm all in. It's on my own time, my own dime. So no, it's here for I'm here for the Ukrainian people and but there's no contract. So that's a great question, and there are people who sign contracts, and you can come over and join the Ukrainian military and be paid. And but no, I'm not that's not my approach. I'm just coming over as a volunteer and doing a particular project that's been extremely successful, and then I'll go home and regroup.
Do you get to take photos and report anything, or do you kind of keep everything on the down low? Like, how are you protected, and what happens if something? I mean, it sounds crazy to me that one of ours is over there helping, and I love that you're doing that because you obviously believe in it. You probably love the people and your experience with them early on. But I mean, your safety and all of that, it's your dime. Do you have protection? Are you on a barrack? Are you integrated with their service, or are you on the outside driving in? This is fascinating.
Great question. So the answer is yes to all the above. It just depends on the time frame. So I actually I'm in Kharkiv, and as you know, Kharkiv was the second most populated city in Ukraine, and this particular area, the Russians have advanced to literally just approximately 18, 20 miles away from the city. So the proximity is quite close. And when I integrate work with a unit, we work outside of an actual, combat theater where we're in there's knowledge transfer of the drone and the technology here. And but I do go on position with the teams from time to time to get them stood up, make sure that they're following the procedures, and also to document the process, because that documentation is what gives us opportunity to, if there is funding or if someone wants to contribute, an opportunity to get that funding by saying, hey, we're not only helping the Ukrainians, but we're boots on the ground, and here's the mission there.
What kind of financial support are you getting while you're over there? I imagine it's not cheap to go to another country and leave your family behind here and I mean, you probably aren't given free housing or free food all the time. So what kind of financial support? How are you paying for that?
Well, that's a great question. I am fortunate. I do have some reserves, so I'm blessed that way. And the housing component is the least expensive, the lowest part of the budget. There's a lot of empty houses here in Kharkiv. Okay, so people, there is a great question. There is a network, and I'm in an apartment here that's empty, and it was just donated for the cause. I do pay what the rent value would be, just to help the person out who's no longer lives here. She left when Russia pushed forward, and is living elsewhere. But I pay this whole apartment. The market value is $100 a month, and so
Oh,
let's put it in perspective, right? Here's where it gets costly: is every drone that I launch currently the price is down to about $650. So that's where our expense is, and so yes, I do have a fair dollar amount that I've personally been out of pocket on this project. But again, we can always recreate wealth. You're not going to be able to recreate this time in history where I get to choose as a citizen of this wonderful world we live in to stand and support the Ukrainian people who I've trained for this exact moment in time to defend themselves. And so this is where I'm supposed to be at this time.
do you work with a foundation or some place that actually provides money to like an organization? Because I would assume the government is the ones who would be reimbursing you for these drone trips or whatever, because you're helping their side. But you kind of mentioned that you get donations.
I've had some donations here and there, but I totally agree. So we have our Western perspective of what warfare looks like, the acquisitions piece. But please understand that this war is being fought literally by who has the best Instagram, Telegram, social media presence and can get donation dollars there, because the acquisitions piece for the Ukrainian military is so much different than what I experienced when I was in the Marine Corps, or I finished with the Utah National Guard. And so the idea of a unit having to go to social media and fundraise for supplies, kits, something unique is a concept that I still have to get my head wrapped around. So there's a large the process of getting drones now is pretty streamlined. So most units can get a 7-inch drone or a 10-inch drone. Is a system it's established now. But when I came in last summer, and we were introducing the fiber drone, the concept of flying a drone over a cable about the size of a fishing line, there was no budget, there was no allocation for this. And so units that had a great social media presence could say, hey, this is the
Unbelievable.
newest and greatest. They could get supplies. I was fortunate that I came in with a lot of equipment. I probably $45,000 worth of equipment at that time, and I was able to leave with each unit enough to get started. So not only would I train them, but I would leave them with kit so that they could see, how to build it, how to adapt their traditional drones to a fiber drone, and to have that weapon, so that were that that system.
Yeah, we're looking at, I mean, this is going to be a lot like the Civil War was, or the Russo-Japanese War, where we're seeing a new type of warfare roll out that's probably going to be studied and going to be the platform of the next wars to come.
Yeah, you absolutely nailed it. Your description of what you're saying is I've heard it referenced many ways, not as well as what you just said, but where this is the game changer in my terminology. But you're not putting this genie back in the bottle. Are they going to
No,
be able? Are there things to defeat it? Counter drone measures, of course. Every 2 months, there's something new here that's effective. But the price point of being able to take a $500 drone put an additional approximately Alibaba price, $100 worth of fiber optic cable on there, and I can now plus a munition. So that is, everywhere here on the battlefield, and I can go defeat a multi-million-dollar electronic warfare system that's supposed to be impenetrable by
Yep.
this $1,000 kit. Is yeah, it's a game changer, that's for sure, and that's
Yep.
why I'm here aggressively teaching and
Where
training.
did our 300 billion go that the United States government has sent over, they believe? I mean, it's not getting in the hands of soldiers, I guess. The technology and all of that, if they're having to fundraise in their own little platoons or
Well,
whatever.
that's a great question. I want to be very clear, and as a taxpayer, again, my only loyalty is to my country, the USA. Okay, and so I love that we have Elon coming in and Trump coming in doing what we're doing there to make sure that our country's strong, because we got to be strong in order to exist. We are the beacon of light and of this world, as far as the nation goes. But far as dollars, though, that equipment is out here. I do see the nice tanks. I do see the weapon systems and the countermeasures and different stuff. This is just a part of an acquisitions piece that is slow to adapt. And so when you got a guy like me knocking on the door with these units saying, "Hey, I've got this, this fiber drone," it was just something that they're now, again, slowly being able to get a line item attached so that they can go out and buy this particular kit. Believe it or not, the corruption component is they're so concerned about the appearance of corruption that the commanders of these units just don't say, "Yeah, I'll allocate this much dollars for Troy to go and buy a bunch of kit on Alibaba," because it could appear that he's embezzling money. So if anything, with the units I'm working with, they are very transparent, and I've never seen any fraud at the lower levels. Now, again, guys, I want to be clear. I'm working with guys who live here in Kharkiv. They get in their vehicles early in the morning before, because we infill before light, and they leave and they go fight, 15 miles, 20 miles away from here, and do their missions during daylight hours, wait till dark, and then exfil there. And
Yeah,
so
this kind of warfare is called irregular home defense. This is much the same warfare that we fought in the Revolutionary War, that the Viet Cong fought in Vietnam, that the French fought in World War II and World War One.
So does the other side just not bomb at night and
Oh, they bomb at night. Unfortunately, I'll send you some pictures of a cruise missile that came into the center of town, and they bomb us all the time.
Yeah, they do, but no, what I mean by irregulars is these are citizens.
right? These are people fighting like in the revolution where they just picked up arms to defend their homes and stuff. I get that.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
It's heavy. It's deep. We do have one question, and this is a tough one. We all have our speculation, what we've heard, but none of us has been there. From your outlook, what do you see are the potential outcomes? What do you see? I mean, we've all got the hope and dream is that Russia just goes home with its tail between its legs, but that's not looking like it's plausible unless someone else gets involved. What are you foreseeing as outcomes?
Well, here's how I see. Again, I'm around the men and women who are motivated, the very best of Ukraine, whose only desire is not to live, to be a free people, and not to live under Russian tyranny. And so these people are the teams I'm with. They're all in, and they're giving their lives daily. I've only been here for this trip for 32 days. Just got back in. We've already had one team member die, and on a mission. I wasn't on the mission at that time, there, and they're all in, and these guys are going to just keep fighting right there. Are there other citizens that are have different motivations or aren't as committed? Yeah, there are other men, but for the people I'm with, they're not going to start fighting. All they ask for is just the kit, the ability, the weapon systems to do that. And I remember, the Marine Corps and the Utah National Guard, our adversary, one of our threats or, peer countries has been Russia for all this time. And our
Yeah.
defense budget, we have line items to make our enemies weaker to go through, have them exhaust their resources. And that's what the Ukrainians are doing. They're literally fighting the war that we've been preparing to fight for as long as I've been in the military. And they're doing it effectively. And it's is Ukrainians dying, not Americans that are dying. So I think militarily, I'd love for us to continue to support them and bring, they could potentially ruin Russia's ability, financially to do any type of warfare for the next 10 years if
Well,
we could just get them the support.
my big concern is that a price? Is that an outcome I'm willing to pay the price of Ukraine having a generation lost?
Yeah, it's worse
That's-
seeing
that's-
how
that's-
much death is coming out of this. They're losing their youngest. They're losing
They're
full
very bad.
families.
They're
What's
very
it? What does Ukraine look like? Say we take away Russia's ability to fight for 10 years, but what does Ukraine look like at the end of that 10 years when they don't have a breeding population?
Yeah, well, there's that's a great question, and that's a little. I just know the people here that I'm with just would have freedom over being conquered. And that's the my most common, when I go back to a unit or I'm introduced to a unit and I'm doing a training, their most common thing is thank you for not abandoning us. That's the most common thing I'm told right there. So there's if they're not free, there's just they don't even talk about that. I mean, they're not exhausted in the sense of their willingness to fight, but they are tired. Don't get me
It's
wrong.
like they would rather die on their feet than live on their knees
You
under
said it very
tyranny.
well. I wish I was that eloquent. Yes.
And I get this. This is what you're saying, like the revolution. I mean, the revolution was that it was we're stand to the last
Mhm.
person, and I'm seeing it from the world stage. Russia is losing so many too, and I'm wondering at what cost.
But-
What is going to get them to the table to make a peace treaty and a deal so they can stop the blood? Because I think the world doesn't want to fund either side losing all these young people.
Oh, that's my big concern is the population collapse in Ukraine wasn't good prior to this. What does it look like in 10 years? Is there
you
is
can
there
have
a genetically well,
you can
is
have a
there
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm just wondering, is there genetically Ukrainian people in 50 years from now? Is there genetically Ukrainian people?
You can have a population collapse or a complete civilization collapse. Russia wants the whole chessboard. So yes, there's Ukrainian people. These guys know how to make babies around here, and will be a baby boom probably like what we had in World War II.
Maybe that does happen. That does happen after a collapse,
Victory.
but there's a point where it can't.
I can only speculate with that one,
Yeah.
my friend. But I know the heart is here to win this war, and they're so grateful for U.S. support. The gratitude that is expressed to me for U.S. support is tremendous. So please, people that hear, I mean, what we send here is sacred, not only to us because it's our tax, our treasure, but also to the Ukrainian men and women who are actually fighting.
Well, okay, so let me ask this. It's been proven that our funding through tax dollars hasn't been a safe means to get it there. How can people donate to, say, your organization? directly.
Yeah, well, it's always great to find something, like I'm boots on the ground, and you can always hit me up at dronereaper.com. I've got a little, you can
That's what we're
donate that.
trying to get. We're trying to get how do people support you? Is it
Yeah,
called
okay.
dronereaper.com?
Drone Reaper, just like, yes, ma'am. A drone as a drone and a reaper .com, and that's my operation right there. And yes, absolutely, be more than happy to get more drones here to the guys boots on the ground. I don't do a great job of marketing that. My focus has been, obviously the actual missions. But that's it right there. Look at that. Look at technology go.
So you've got to support and donate.
Yeah.
The fiber drone, so is the drone, is it a drone that is connected by fiber, so it's not dedicated to a radio signal?
You nailed it, my friend.
So it can't be taken down by the new what is that? The new radio guns that they're shooting?
Electronic warfare. We just wrap it up with electronic warfare to encompass it all. So it cannot be, as you just said, it cannot be taken down by any type of electronic warfare. It's literally, Alibaba price is about $100 of additional hardware. So you go to war with the weapon systems you have, but we take this small amount of kit and attach it to the drone platforms that the units already have in abundance, and it makes them. So what the U.S. has, as you know, we always have precision weapons, and then so there's two fields of thought: precision or quantity. And we've always gone for precision, the U.S. Well, the Ukrainians have quantity of drones. So once we combine the fiber, which is our precision, to the quantity, it makes us very lethal. As you well know, most of the drones do not make their intended hit, their intended target. Only about 33% is the average rate that actually make contact. When you add fiber to the drone, we can get that above 90% because we can't be jammed, we can't be taken out.
And what kind of weapon can you put on the drone? Can you vary it so that you've got guns, or you've got bombs, or you've got just research, so you've got cameras and whatever, but how in depth can you get with these?
Very in depth. The go-to is an RPG-7 warhead. That's for a hot load, or a thermobaric warhead is another very popular. And we can, on a 7-inch drone, on a 10-inch drone, we can go 1.5 to 2 kilo of actual munition.
And are they quiet, or are they able to get in there pretty stealthily? And
yeah, you hear them, but every soldier on the front line, that PTSD you're going to get is.
I play Call of Duty, and I hear a drone in Call of Duty, and I scream.
Well, the drone is probably shock factor, and I mean, artillery doesn't have the best numbers of impact ratios, but it's the number one killer on the field. So
can I just ask it? Do you see media? Because I never see footage of the fight. I don't watch regular cable. I usually watch, just whatever snippets in YouTube and all of that. But do you ever have media on the ground? I feel like if they had reporters showing the fight, because when Trump describes it, he says it's a lot of flat land, and it's very difficult for, it's a bloody war, but you don't see footage of the fighting like you did during Iraq and with our guys over there in the Middle East. And yet I think if the American people saw what you guys were going through, or what the soldiers were saying about wanting to fight for their freedom to the very last breath, I think that it would get more people engaged and maybe make people understand a little bit what they're fighting for.
So the question of media, yes, media does cover that. Obviously, 3 years into the war, the coverage isn't what it previously has been at the beginning of the war. But they're out here. The Ukrainian story is being told, but it's part of a news cycle. and there's a rotation now that just doesn't cover it. We've had the U.S. elections, so a lot of different stuff has came up throughout the world, and it's just not the hot topic, even though it's where most people are dying. And to your point, sir, where you were mentioning about the effectiveness of artillery, you're spot on. So I have a medical background in the military, and the amount of injuries that are being seen by gunshots, maybe you may see one gunshot for every 100 um, wound that's inflicted from artillery and drones. We classify those as a the same, some type of munition going off, detonation.
Indirect fire munitions, explosives. Yeah.
Well said. Well said.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm Army myself. I'm probably a little older than you. So I wasn't in there when the USSR was still alive, but close enough to where that was still our battle call when we got issued our weapon.
Got it. Got it. Same thing here. I actually think I'm older than you, young man. I do want to tell you, we were talking about the fiber drone, and the reason that this became such a crusade for me is March 8th of last year, an article came out about a downed Russian fiber drone. And I saw that, and as an infantry marine, trained as an infantry marine, I recognized what that could do for our, Ukrainian brothers and sisters. I was in Utah, and just took pictures of it, or from the article, had pictures of it, and got in touch with a couple of the volunteer groups I was, just all connected with, and we started plugging and playing and putting something together. Made our version of it. 3 months later, I'm back in Ukraine. This was my fourth trip at that time, and we were getting the Ukrainians spun up on our version of a fiber drone. And here's why it's so effective: is not only can it not be jammed, because you can't take those special guns or anything with electronic warfare
Like an
and
EMP.
overpower the signal, but you got to think about this. Anytime you're sitting in a location and you're transmitting your radio signal to control your drone, and you'd have to increase your amperage or your signature, it's easily detected. One thing the Russians are very good at, and we don't like saying it, but they're much better at their electronic warfare game than we are. As far as Ukrainian skill level, and the fiber allows us to operate with no signature whatsoever.
So you're a ghost.
Because we're a ghost. Well said. So we launch because everything's over a hard cable, and it's truly helped save the lives of our Ukrainians, service members by that. And again, Russia has this, so we're still playing catch up in that regard. But the speed in which Ukrainians are bringing more fiber online is completely outpacing the Russians, because the innovation of when I left here last October, basically the 1st of November, to where we are now, is just it's multiple folds increase on what they're doing.
So how ironic, a picture you see in an article gets some boy in Utah to decide, wow, I can do that, and sends you over the pond to make sure that you're going to equip an army with your knowledge. And are there more of you? Are there more of you, fellow soldiers, fellow Marines that have joined you, citizens of America that have gone over there to help? Are you a rare person? Like are there many Americans over there helping?
In Ukraine, I'm not rare in the sense, but I will tell you, it is when you come over to Ukraine, it is just disproportionate the amount of United States Marines who are over here serving. They're volunteering. I meet them left and right. Some sign contracts with the Ukrainian military, to be clear. So you can sign a contract and you go into the military system. And they love that, because it helps bring the unit's standards or awareness up, because you're Western trained, or at the early days. Now Ukraine's obviously the expert in warfare there, but there are tons of Marines who are over here. And met a guy yesterday. He's a Marine. I said, "Why are there so many of us over here?" And he gave me a hug. He says, "Because we never got that because we're always on duty." Was his line.
Well, does this ever get like a conflict of interest where maybe Russian generals see this as American boots on the ground? Do they keep a secret of what Americans are over there? Does our government make sure that you guys are going alone, that this does not represent the United States in any way?
We're not in uniform. I mean, we're here on our own time and
And you're not wearing a flag or anything like that.
Well, I mean, I'm represent the USA, so if we're from the States, we'll have a US flag on, a lot of us, right there. But it's not, I'm I'm from the USA and I'm here volunteering, but I do not have a US government. I'm not under contract with the US government as a member of the military. So, can it be said, hey, if I was, hey, I was in the US military, I mean, can they spin it? Sure. But, there's no active contract with me and the other people over here.
I'm just always curious because I know that's something people wonder. David Weiss says you put a flamethrower on there. And Patricia Weiss says, "Good to see you, my friend Troy." And Fred says, "Any person fighting to defend their home and family is inspirational." I mean, we say this often on the show. I don't think Americans nowadays really understand what true poverty is or what, real
sacrifice
tyranny looks like, to where, you're willing to give up anything and everything to protect your homeland. I think that we've been really lucky to have, service members go out and do the hard stuff for us in other countries, but haven't had to really fight at home. So I think the perspective from the Ukrainians is probably it's live or die at this point on where you live. Move a little bit, but keep fighting. So I think that it's an interesting perspective, and I appreciate you sharing this and being on the show. I mean, you're the first person I've spoken with that has actually fought in Ukraine. And I'm surprised we haven't seen more interviews with people fighting in Ukraine. Maybe it is the look that people are afraid of, that we have American soldiers over there. Maybe there's that whole concept that, oh crap, that looks like we're sending them. And yet who else is going to volunteer but Marines, right? Soldiers, of course. There's somebody in need and they want to be there to serve those people. I'm just very intrigued. What do you think? You're awful quiet.
No, I'm listening. It's a tough one. I'm of multiple minds on this. What you said a while ago, knocking Russia back 10 years. When we did that was done to us in Vietnam, right?
I see what you you can definitely.
And Vietnam didn't come out of that in good shape.
Yeah.
And Vietnam was then invaded by China right after, and then by Cambodia for China right after that. And then Afghanistan, we did it back to Russia again. And that's fine. I don't knock a superpower down. That doesn't bother me. But I'm truly concerned for the Ukraine.
Well, you think of how many times Ukraine has been invaded by Russia. They're just ready for this to stop. And if Russia can get a big enough black eye and be broken, Germany doesn't invade France anymore. Those days are just like they're done. So
no, Germany doesn't invade France anymore because Germany won with the European Union.
Yeah.
Germany won. They dominate they did dominate until they gave up on using natural gas and went to wind farms, and now they're done. But that's honestly, but Germany had won. Germany conquered Europe economically, and that's the best win ever. There's no blood in that one, just money.
Mm-hmm. Well,
But
I don't know the big picture, and you're asking great questions, but I can tell you, as far as boots on the ground, the men and women that live in this apartment all around me in this city just don't want to live under Russian tyranny, and they'll continue to bleed and die to make that not their scenario for them and their
no,
children.
I agree. I agree. When the USSR invaded the Ukraine in, what was it, 29, they had an army, a Ukrainian army led by a cavalry captain. I forget his name off the top of my head.
He has so much knowledge in his
But it
head.
was the Black Army is what they called it. And it was an anarchist Black Army. And I loved their story. They just rode around to Ukraine doing hit and run tactics against the Russians and pestered them for, year and a half. I mean, they lost in the end, but that's just because of sheer numbers. And that started under Lenin.
So Ukraine's always been in a battle, I guess.
The
against
Ukraine
Russia.
is always, well,
But
not just
Ukraine
against
has
Russia.
a lot of minerals, and they've got a lot of advantage to where they are in the ocean and the transport.
And they've got a lot of arable land, and everyone around there has always wanted Ukrainian arable land. Here's a thought for you. I was talking to a National Guardsman a couple months ago. You know what NTC is, correct?
Yeah, please enlighten me. I'm sure I did at one time, but
National Training Center for the military out in Fort Ord, California, the desert training.
Okay.
I have heard that has been moved, or it's in the process of being moved to Boise, Idaho.
For terrain reasons?
And Boise, Idaho looks exactly like Ukraine.
Okay. So what? They're going to plan on sending our troops there?
That's what it looks like.
Well, David says, what happens when the Russians take over a territory? What rights do they take away?
Yeah.
Everything. Hey, I'll tell you, the people here in Ukraine who say they want to be Russian or think they have Russian sympathies, they change their mind pretty quick after they are living under Russian rule. So they just, all right. Well, I do want you to hear this clearly. The amount of rapes that are documented and factual are, one, they would never be reported to the scale, because the scale that's currently being reported is unbelievable. And the inhumanity of the Russian soldier is just brutal. It's a different mindset right there. And, I remember a lot of my guys would come home, Marines, and we're talking about ISIS just being pure evil, the mindset. And there seems to be a similar pattern right there of the brutality towards the population when they take over. They're not coming in as liberators. They're coming in as invaders and terror and pure terror.
Right, and there's a lot of women who fight on, and there's a lot of women who are fighting soldiers, right, in Ukraine.
There are a lot of in medical roles right there. I mean, there's just an hour and 15 minutes from here, there's the city of Sumy, Ukraine, with 449 mass graves there. Execution. They went out and look, I'm sure had to dig their own graves there. And the Russians, when they came into that city, just executed that in one spot. There's mass graves all over this country.
It does make your blood boil. I mean, it makes a part of me say, you know what, let's throw all in and let's just invade Russia. Let's just,
Yeah, but what cost? I mean,
but at what cost?
It's not a drone attack, it's a nuclear attack, and the world could end.
Well, I hope no one's invading Russia there, but let's just get Russia back out of the Ukraine territory and let them defend themselves.
If that's their level of people, you know what?
I mean, what's going to stop them?
I'm fine with fertilizing the earth with them.
Well, that's their level of military personnel that they're pitting into the.
Well, then we won't be hard on their civilians, but. So
Russia, Fred says Russia has demonstrated their willingness to keep moving the line forward against Ukraine if they're allowed to. I mean, I just don't know where this ends. And if they are causing this much treachery on the people, it's not a liberating situation where they can do better for the people. And Americans don't know, and I don't think know enough about this war. This war has been a money dig for them, and they just want out. They want United States out of wars totally. I think the mandate and the election was proof of that. But how does this end? What Russia has to say, okay, we give up. And they're not going to do that. Putin's not going to do that. They've lost so many themselves. I mean, logically, he wouldn't do that. Would Ukraine be willing to give up Kiev or property and say, okay, the line is stopped here. This is now the new boundary. You win this. We walk away with this. We stay sovereign. You stay sovereign. And then we fix it from there. Like, do you have any idea where they think that the end looks? Is Ukraine going to be able to take back the property that's already been taken?
Those are all excellent questions, and the spirit's there to take back the property. It's just a matter is to take back the lands. It's just a matter is the equipment there, the ability. So again, that's higher level, questions. And
I'm asking you to tell me the general's plan and all of that, and I'm sorry.
No, but
it's above your pay grade because you're donating your time.
Yeah, but I am in a unique perspective. You're asking me, what's the spirit of the Ukrainian people and the people who are fighting, and they're fighting to the end right there. And all these men and women just want all their lands back. They want where their moms grew up and where their dads worked in this area. They want to take it back to the Russian boundaries. I mean, that's where their goal. They want all their lands. When you look at the maps here in Ukraine and what's on, they have Crimea and they have complete country there. So it's not a negotiation point. Now, how it ends, again, we know how it ends, in 2014, there were some different lines, but I want everyone to just maybe we can look it up, but to look at the memorandum. I think of it quickly. It was the original piece where Ukraine agreed to give up their nuclear weapons. There is I can't think of it right now.
I recall that. I thought that a lot of countries at the time were giving up nuclear weapons.
But there were agreements made. And Budapest, was it the Budapest memorandum? Maybe we can Google
so.
That. And you'll see right there that Russia, U.S., and Britain agreed that Ukraine would be a sovereign country if they could, and that we would defend that.
Yes.
Right.
But they didn't join NATO. That was another rule, right? In this treaty?
They weren't in NATO in 2014 either when they were pushed.
But they would get to stay sovereign, but they would have the protection of the United States if something happened, as long as they gave up their nukes.
It's not in that agreement as far as not joining NATO. There, it's just that if they give up their nukes, their landmass would remain sovereign there. They'd be a free country and Russia wouldn't invade, right? So anyways, obviously that's proven otherwise.
Oh, that's just, it's a sad deal. And I think people should definitely check out your, we put it in the comments, the website.
I appreciate
and, check it out. I know if David Weiss had an opportunity to get one of your drones and equip it with, he's got dreams of all kinds of things that he could equip your drone with. And it's dronereaper.com.
It is. And guys, I just want to tell you, I appreciate your time. I was tuned in earlier, and I love the conversations that you're having. Obviously, 50+% of America has the same mindset and conversations based on, what I heard earlier. And so I'm grateful for this platform and what you guys bring to the table as far as conversation goes. And I also appreciate the opportunity to be here as a citizen of Utah and sharing my experience of how I'm assisting Ukraine to maintain freedom and discuss the fiber drone. So I'm grateful for the time.
Well, when you get back to Utah, if we could offer you, we're out in Tooele. if you'd come out and come on the show and give us an update. It's a heavy deal.
It's heavy.
It's heavy when the Russia is notoriously a very brutal military. Just read about their march to Berlin. I mean, it was so bad Trotsky was in shock over it.
Before you got on, I was talking about the list of people that have fallen off of buildings and have or shot themselves in the head 5 times to commit suicide because they disagreed with the war or argued with Putin. That is tyranny, and that is a dictator. The problem is this is just, I don't know how it ends. Is it a circle, and how many lives have to be lost, and do we get a good outcome in the end? And it's going to take so much more than just talking at a table. They're going to have to give, someone's going to have to give, and eventually what? Does the world have to put Putin down? Like, I don't know how this ends. So I'm grateful that you're on the show, and I'm grateful you set an alarm to talk to us. And
woke up early.
Yes, and that you're from Utah, and you're part of our extraordinary military, and I just think it's pretty great that we're getting a firsthand view. Fred says Russia will circle around and go after those natural resources again. And Fred also says it's good to hear from someone who has seen it with their own eyes. I mean, that's very enlightening to me, because you're the first person that I've talked to that military wise is seeing the actual fighting in action. I've talked to people that I adore that have been over there in the political spectrum trying to help and get aid, and they're giving a different perspective, and they love the Ukrainian people, and they're asking for resources from a government perspective. But to hear from somebody militarily that with Alibaba is able to get drones for so much cheaper and actually give them a fighting chance. I mean, this is great. It's just, for me, it's very scary, because I don't know what the answer is. Vietnam, my father fought in Vietnam, and he came home and was a mess over it, I believe. And the loss was even worse, that we had to walk away from that. So I'd like to know that there's a winning strategy here, and the people of Ukraine can rebuild, and hopefully they can live in peace over there without this being a constant drag on them.
But it appears to be a pretty constant drag based on Russia's aggression towards them, especially after the Budapest Memorandum has been violated so many times at this point. But, here's the thing that we can do as individuals. There's only one chance to be on the right side of history. And, we always say never again. And in my opinion, never again is right now. And, it's regardless of what governments may or may not do to defend, to keep promises, to defend Ukraine. It's up to me as an individual, because you really can in this world make a difference. And, here I am, a 51-year-old guy, saw a fiber drone. I don't even fly drones at that time, and I'm coming forth, and it's been, extremely popular here, this version and other versions that the Russians, again, were ahead of us on this. But my point is we have one chance to be on the right side of history. Getting something you believe in and make a difference, contribute, get active like you guys have done, bringing a voice of logic and reason to the community. With your show, I'm supporting Ukraine, and but I really do know as individuals we can make a difference in this world for the good. There. So that's why, again, grateful to be on the show. If anyone wants to support this line of work that I'm doing, again, I'm not passing out diapers. I'm all about warheads on foreheads. It's dronereaper.com. And
warheads on foreheads.
Mm-hmm. No, that's awesome. That's awesome. A $600 drone. I mean, for anyone who doesn't know, an M16 costs about $21,000. That's what our government's paying for an M16.
Are you serious?
100%.
Why? Why are they so expensive?
One, our government's paying for it, and two,
we'll find out. Elon will show us.
That's yes, he will.
And then we'll
Yes,
have
he-
Troy tell us how much he could do it for with
But
Alibaba.
a $600 drone and a $600 drone, even if it does not eliminate an enemy, the shock value of it is, I mean, you can watch the videos. A drone shows up on the field and the guys start to scatter.
Yeah, they don't know what it'll do. And it may take a tank out. I mean, it sounds like these can be armed with pretty much extraordinary weapons so that, yeah, you don't know what it's going to do. Is it
Yeah.
going to blow a whole team up? Is it going to just put one person in the light and just take that one person out? Is it going to drop a missile into a tank? And I mean, this
So
is extraordinary.
Does the drone carry the fiber spool on it, or is the
It
fiber
does.
spool? Wow.
It does. That was version 1. That's before we took that massive 10-kilometer spool in that picture, and now we've got it reduced to 1/3 the size, and so it's much more aerodynamic there, less less drag, less resistant, so we can, our ranges are going longer. I'm doing a 30-kilometer, 30-kilometer missions in 48 hours going into Kursk region, and we'll be flying those 2 flights, so which is a little bit longer for our normal mission. But I had some product made by a U.S. developer and said, "Hey, let's go test this," and it's working great. So
Are these drones going to be with ordnance, or are they going to be
Oh, yeah.
intelligence?
No. Everything I do is ordnance. Right there, we get the best. Yeah, we're going to take out some juicy targets.
So this is $100 drone.
No,
600.
let's clarify. About 600 is what is about 650. It basically is what the cost point is.
Still, 650. You could buy a nice drone, and it's still not top of the line here for people just messing around. A $650 drone, can it carry the size of a person?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
So the weaponry is going to be
No.
bound by what it can carry weight wise.
You're looking at about 2-3 pounds, basically. Of
Okay.
munitions
Yeah.
is what we're carrying.
It's
And 2 to 3
fascinating.
pounds of explosive
It's a lot of explosive.
that's good explosive.
Yes, and again, as we know, it's better to if we can inflict an injury and take 2 or 3 guys out to take care of the one injury is more effective than just eliminating the one person. So it's anyway, that's getting into the math.
Yeah, and
Wow.
if you can take out a piece of equipment.
Yeah, you nailed it, brother. You were trained well by the Army. So we always, the higher value targets always equipment versus a man. Truthfully, you want the men to stay and just take away their supplies and kit, because then morale breaks. They complain, that gets infectious. They break ranks, and it's definitely what's needed.
It instills fear in them too. Like they want to run.
How are you guys
I'll
on?
tell you, when you say run, we set these drones up, we're exposed, and the fiber drone takes a little more finesse to set it up. And, there's, every time I've ran more than once to make sure have cover with these drones. So you see, when you go on the battlefield, you see more drones than you do people. We literally infield at night, during the dark, and I will not typically won't see people, because you have zero line, the front line, and then about half a kilometer back or further are positions for the drone operators.
It's amazing.
Just out of lead range.
Plus that wire, that line capsule looks like it could be, C4 for all they know. I mean, it looks pretty crazy itself. I think it's fascinating. Is there anything you want to share with us before we let you go? Anything you want to end on?
Well,
This has
I
been
wanted to ask,
fantastic.
are you guys able to pierce behind their lines and take out their supply vehicles, their fuel vehicles?
100%.
That's the ideal targets there.
We're launching. So the reason that the fiber drone is so effective is we're able to launch that in a denied environment. So the Russians get pretty, let's say, comfortable because they dominate this AO with their superior jamming system. So they're
Right.
under this umbrella, they're protected. And then, here comes Troy's fiber drone.
They don't see it coming.
You're hearing a buzz and they're thinking, wait a minute, it should be dropping. Well, it's going to drop soon. But boom, we penetrate through their umbrella and we're going right into whatever target's been identified, because there's reconnaissance drones at higher altitudes identifying the targets. So for every money shot you see, there's a ISR drone, a reconnaissance drone above, orchestrating that battlefield, identifying targets, and whatever team is within the closest proximity of those targets, we go out and eliminate them with those FPV teams.
This is the new method of war.
Well, the next major war we see on Earth is going to be a drone war.
Oh, I thought it was going to be fought with sticks because
it's
going to be a nuclear war.
If it goes nuclear, then maybe it'll be. But no, the next one we see is going to be, if you've ever read a history book, our next war is going to be a drone war. Well,
Star Wars said Battle of the Drones.
Just like
episode 2.
Well, it's definitely a component, guys. But far as just saying, I just want to thank you for your time. I do want to say that we learned this from the Ukrainian people every day going against odds. I mean, we all thought most of us thought Russia was going to take Ukraine within months. And you see, we're still fighting. Ukrainian people are still fighting. And I've learned, as bad as everything may appear, that truly the very best of this world, there's some of the very best people I've ever met are right here in Ukraine, duking it out with the Ukrainian people. The spirit of Ukrainian people, the spirit of wanting to be free and maintain freedom is well alive, all throughout this world. And people do show up in the worst places to do the Lord's work here in Ukraine. And I'm very optimistic towards just the outcome, because so many of us are giving it their all for a favorable result in Ukraine. And so it's humbling to be on the right side of history and to stand with the Ukrainian people. And yes, if you want to put a drone, reach out to me through the website, and I'll dedicate it. I'll make a video of it and of the mission and be effective with the blessing, with your donation. So guys,
you put like the names of the donor if they want right there on there.
Do it.
Like, hi from the United States. Boom.
Yeah, if I have a good Starlink signal and Wi-Fi, I'll launch the drone and everything. You just dial right in and go live with you.
Oh my gosh, how much does that cost again? We should start fundraising.
Generously give. We'll have that conversation. So
yeah.
But guys, thank you for having me.
Thank you, Troy. And we hope to see you when you come back stateside. Be safe tomorrow.
Yeah, God bless you.
Hope you're wearing body armor. Hope you're carrying a weapon, at least as a last defense, and stay low and fast.
Do they let you bring your own weapons into Ukraine, I hope, when you fly in?
That each unit has their own procedures, but it's there's a protocol for me if we get overran, and so we've got all that worked out beforehand.
Okay.
My goodness. Wow. Well, thank you for
safe,
doing
man.
that.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate what you're doing.
See you when you get back. We appreciate you.
Bye-bye.
All right, everyone. That is Troy. Let's thank him for his time and his service, giving the good name to the U.S., to the United States Marine Corps, and to the great state of Utah.